I'm in conversation with Dr. Janice Pearlman, urban anthropologist, research scholar. She's been studying the favelas of Brazil for over 40 years. She's written extensively on her studies, her findings. I'd like to know from you, Dr. Pearlman, what is the one single most important finding you've come away with after 4 decades of research?
Well, thank you for that question. I've been following hundreds of families from the countryside of Brazil starting in 1969 to Rio de Janeiro as they built up their homes and their communities on unused land. And I did a whole book called The Myth of Marginality that came out in '76. 30 years later, I went back, found the same people, and interviewed them again, and their children and their grandchildren. And what I found was that although there'd been tremendous improvement in the quality of their consumption, they had more urban services and more consumer goods in their home, they did not have human dignity. They had not made the leap to being treated with respect. They were like the invisible man concept in the excluded and marginalized. And I realized that I titled the last chapter of my new book, which is called Favela, 4 Decades of Living on the Edge in Rio de Janeiro. I took the last chapter titled, The Importance of Being Gente. And gente means of being a person. And I got that concept because the most bright young man who I interviewed in the late 60s, when I found him again, and he was outstanding, I said, well, Nilton, how are you doing? What's happened all these 30 years? And he said, Janice, when I first met you, I thought that if I worked hard, I married well, I limited my family to only 2 children, and I gave them a good education. And even if I worked after retirement and kept going, that by today I would be gente. And then he looked at me, I'd be somebody. And then he looked at me and said, and you know what? Today I'm light years away. I am further away from being gente than I was when you first met me. And that touched my heart so much because it showed that even though Brazil may have, quote, pulled people out of poverty by making them consumer class, they didn't make them full citizens of their city or of their country. And I think that's the biggest challenge, how to give every person the dignity and respect that human beings deserve and use their intellectual capital and their creativity as well as their work power and their consumer power. So that's my biggest finding, and I want to call my next book The Importance of Being Gente.
Okay, and we will look for your latest book, which is, I hope, coming out soon.
Well, it certainly should be translated in Portuguese first, and then it will come out in English.
So we'll look for that. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.